She has a PhD in chemical engineering from Clarkson University, New York, and holds 67 patents from a variety of innovations. Wow, Jayshree, 67 patents. That's impressive. In 2018, Jayshree was appointed as 3M's first ever Chief Science Advocate and is using her scientific knowledge, technical expertise, and professional experience to advance science and communicate the importance and benefits of science in everyday life. And now I'd like to turn it over to Jayshree. Just before Jayshree starts, just for everyone, there is a chat box. If you have any questions, I'll be back to them after Jayshree finishes her presentation. So Jayshree, now take it away.
Thank you, Cecilia. I am very excited to be part of this experiment right here. This is my first Zoom webinar. We've been having a few in the last a month or so, so this should be interesting. I am going to share my screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Why did I even use the word experiment? No, I can't share. It says I'm a participant and I can't share.
Let's see if I can get Don here. Hold on one second.
No, hold on a second. So sorry, everybody. Hold on here.
Yeah, it just says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, hold on a second. So sorry.
No problem. Looks like you have to enable something, or I have to step out and come back in as a host. I'm not sure.
We're figuring that out right now. Okay. I think that might have worked.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yes, it did.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
There we go.
We had so much help, though. That was amazing. Did you see all the help coming in? It's like we know what we should be doing. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I was telling Cecilia and Dawn that do we really want to be talking about fostering a culture of innovation? I mean, fostering innovation right now, it seems like, oh my God, there's this thing festering out there, and we're going to talk about this. And company culture, I mean, I haven't had company in a while. I don't know about you. So this seemed like it was so, out there for a topic. But then as we started talking, we all realized that these are certainly, and I'm going to say it, unprecedented times. The dictionary people have said that the unprecedented use of unprecedented is in fact unprecedented. So we can only imagine how many times, even in corporate America, this term has now been used, because there's nothing else that can describe what we're really going through. And the way we have always thought about our business environment, and let's say even to a point of how we have begun to live, is very nicely summarized by VUCA. And for those of you who haven't heard this, this is a term often used in military, and then it was actually borrowed from military to strategic business sense, that we have to deal with a world that is volatile, there's uncertainty, there's complexity, and it's ambiguous. And now when VUCA goes viral, in my mind, uncertain for sure has been replaced by unprecedented, because that's just the nature of this beast. There are other things in my mind that have changed as well. From volatility, it's even the examination of vulnerability now. How is our business vulnerable? For example, now, how about our cybersecurity? The areas of vulnerability that have been exposed, we didn't even know about. And that is related to the fact of how unprecedented it is. And instead of just being complex, it is complex, but it also can get contentious. I have seen debates on topics, even in my house. We're all ready to pounce on each other right now, but we are seeing debates around things which I never thought would be ever debated. And it's even bigger if you go out in the outside world. I mean, everything is being debated and it's up for debate apparently, so it's all contentious. And then everything you say or do is suddenly amplified. I have 2 teenagers. I can only tell you how amplified we all have become towards each other. But you go out in the world and you see any company or any individual or any leader doing anything, suddenly that whole thing is amplified. And that creates for this additional sort of VUCA on steroids, really. And I'm actually working on an article on this, and success in the time of pandemic, I want to call it. So that's coming. Stay tuned. Follow me on LinkedIn and you'll be able to see where all of this is going. The bottom line, though, is if you really pay attention, you'll also see that the one way that we're all dealing with it is our intense desire to solve problems. And that is essentially innovation. So if you see companies that are able to pivot, and I'm pretty much a hot of the press kind of a person, so I just did a random search on pivot and pandemic, and I came up with this wonderful article in Material Handling and Logistics, which says the secret is the flexibility to respond, and that comes from innovation. So wherever you look, everybody's trying to pivot. You're trying to use the skills you have, the capabilities that you have, and provide value. And the ability to do that comes from your ability to be innovative. So innovation is very germane to what we're dealing with right now. In fact, he goes on to say that innovation like this that is needed now comes from the bottom of the organization. And it can't come from top down. It is the kind of ground level innovation that you need right now. And he goes on to explain that if you don't have a culture or a structure to support this bottom-up innovation, then you will be in trouble. And at the end of the day, it's all about people. And we've all seen the stories of people who are trying to be so innovative in many different ways, whether it is in sports. We just saw how people did draft from home. We have seen it in the music industry. We have seen everywhere people making masks, people making 3D printed face shields. It's all about that intense desire to solve problems, and it's all going to be people driving it. So the importance of people and culture is definitely out there. Here's an example of a company that I've been able to observe very closely because I work there. And not only have we changed our entire supply chain to sort of ramp up for this pandemic, we have had activity with collaboration with other companies. So Ford and Cummins and others who can help us, ramp up production of the powered air purifying respirators. So it's not just about doubling the production of N95 and then attempting to double it again in 12 months, getting all stakeholders involved, adjusting the way it is directed, and then getting the help from organizations and the government to get it to the people who need it, also fighting all that price gouging and counterfeit out there. And then finally, last week, 3M announced that we're going to give $20 million for people in need, vulnerable communities, healthcare providers, and medical researchers working on this. And at the bottom of it is all the fact that we are going to hold true to our core values during this pandemic. And this is our CEO who said this last week. So let's see what we hold as values at 3M. And among them, you can clearly see the ones I've highlighted. It's innovation and people and culture. So the reason why we were able to pivot to satisfy the needs that were really apparent from this pandemic is because of our flexibility in our culture that allows for this focus on innovation and people. So for those of you who don't know 3M, we are headquartered in St. Paul, Minnesota. That's where I am right now. We are over 32 billion in sales. We have operations in almost 70 countries as marketing operations, sales in over 200 countries. 95,000 of us call ourselves 3Mers, and we have 115,000 patents. So something that is very important to us is our intellectual property. We have 4 business groups, the masks and such, and myself, we are in safety and industrial. So I'm in the industrial section of safety and industrial. We also have transportation and electronics, and you won't see most of the things that we make because that they don't show up as a consumer product, but you will see that everything that you own perhaps has been touched by us. We like to say you're always within 10 feet of a 3M product. We are in healthcare, and then of course, consumer products, you may know us by our Post-it notes and things like that. And what we do is we take a technology and then we use the same technology base and innovate in different areas. So the same competence that we have in adhesives can be used in safety and industrial. It is used in transportation and electronics. It can be used in healthcare for making adhesives now that stick to skin, which is very different from the surfaces that you need to stick to in either safety and industrial or transportation and electronics. And then again, consumer. So now you need to stick to paper or maybe walls and things like that. But it's the same core technology that we have. And this exact same view can be 51 times over because we have 51 of these technologies, but it's more than that because now you can multiply and add all of these different technology platforms. So for example, for making high performance window film. So this is the window film that you can see through. You don't have to darken it so that it now doesn't allow you to see through just to stop the UV light, but it can also stop the light. And that comes from a combination of multiple technology platforms that we have. And we're able to do this all because of our R&D structure. So most of the technology development happens in the corporate labs, and most of the product development then happens in a division and a business lab. And this takes care of all the fundamental capabilities and structure that we have. But at the end of the day, this only works if we have a collaborative culture, a culture that promotes innovation. So as you're listening to this, if you are a leader in an organization, you know all of this. You know that somehow you need to create that sense and a culture where people are allowed to innovate. And only then innovation will happen. And if there's no collaboration, that innovation will never see the light of the day. So you are already aware of the challenges there and how to institute that culture. If you're an individual contributor, we all need to figure out where we fit in and how can we contribute towards making this culture more collaborative and being more innovative. And if you have not started on your journey, career journey yet, these are things that you need to be aware of because there can be wonderful things going on in a company, but unless there is a collaborative culture to bring it to market, you'll never see the light of the day and true innovation that comes from creating value. So it's important to understand that the customer is at the center of all of this. Your capabilities, your skills, your technologies feed into it, the insights that you have, but at the end of the day, bringing it all together is only possible through that culture of innovation. So how did we get to be this way at 3M? Why are we hailed as one of the most innovative companies in the world and often make those lists? It's because we started out this way. We have a long legacy. William McKnight, who was our president almost 100 years ago now, and he said, hire good people and leave them alone. Easier said than done. But that's true to the core of what 3M is. And if you read on, it actually says, as our business grows, it becomes increasingly necessary to delegate responsibility and to encourage men and women. He was definitely a visionary. I mean, look, this was in 1929 or whatever, and he said men and women. And his picture and his quotes are plastered all over at 3M because this idea of hiring good people and leaving them alone, what it does is it provides a culture that encourages employee initiative and innovation because you're walking in knowing that it is expected out of you and you want to fulfill that expectation. It's not just that. We have our top leaders saying innovation is our biggest competitive advantage, and that is the heart of 3M. So I want to share with you something very specific because you can say, well, this is all la-di-da. I could have read an article and all of this is there. What are specific things tell me that you do differently or do at your company, which you believe are really have the key, hold that key to the culture of innovation? So number one, we have what is called 15% culture. And a lot of companies have imitated us since then. We have had this for a long time. And what this means is fundamentally, there is an opportunity for me to work on something because I think it's important. And I don't even have to answer to my manager. I can say I'm working on it in my 15% time. And that's what we call 15% culture. What it means is you have the ability to come up with an idea and to follow through on it and work on it. And it doesn't have to be something that was assigned to you. It doesn't have to be something that you have to seek permission for. So let's say I happen to visit a hospital and I see some dressing that I don't like. I'm not in that healthcare business. I'm in industrial business. But I think about it and I go, you know what? If 3M made a pink dressing, it would be a great thing because of XYZ reason. I am fully allowed to go work on a pink dressing and talk to people about that in my 15% time. And nobody will ask me what you're doing with that. And that's the mental freedom that you have. It isn't really about 15%, 20%, or 30%. What it really is a permission for people to innovate. And it creates this expectation that we're expecting you to use your 15% time. Second thing is, so I'll give you an example of technical people. I'm part of the technical community. We're usually in the labs and always wanting to solve problems and do experiments and talk technical stuff. How do you bring all these people together? So we have an organization at 3M called Tech Forum, and that organization is all made up of technical people, by the technical people, for the technical people. And we constantly put up these seminars and meetings and things like that where we're all thrown together, poster sessions. And what this does is it brings people together. Because remember, I am not in healthcare. I had this idea from a hospital to develop a pink dressing. I need to talk to some people who are in healthcare. So I go to these poster sessions where I can say, hey, I have this idea. And here's why I want to make a pink tape. And people are going to say, well, you know, we already have this. Maybe you want to think about that. And this is where all these people are constantly thrown together. And this is key. People don't realize that you need to create a lot of these opportunities where organically ideas start bubbling up, where people are sort of interacting in a non-formal way. I think many companies, many workplaces have lots of formal engagements. Now you shall have a happy hour, or now you shall do this. This is more organic. This is where we go, we're just getting together as a technical community. We're all going to talk about some new ideas we have or new problems that we want to solve. And we just go at it. And when we are at these sessions, we are constantly looking poster to poster, how is it that I can help, or what it is that I'm seeing can help my problem. And so getting people together. So first, you gave them the freedom to think and operate and say, you can work on something and your boss doesn't even need to know. That's very, very empowering. Second, you pull people together. So I know what to do if I had an idea which didn't relate to my area. Now comes the best part. If you had an idea and you're able to pull a team together, you can ask the corporation for money. Not your boss, not your management. You can go to the company and say, I have this idea. It's called Genesis Grants. We have several grant programs like that. And I have presented many of them. In fact, I just presented 2 weeks ago on another idea that I had that doesn't relate to my particular area. And I was able to get a team together. So you can get money from the corporation to work on your idea. It's like a venture cap. You just go there and you say, this is what I want to do. This is why I think 3M should do it. This is why it's important. These are the people I've already talked to. They're all willing to help me, and we'll do it in our 15% time. So we got the funds. And then if things start happening and it gets traction and somebody gets interested in it from a business unit, we have the opportunity to go through the process of actually understanding the market and the work and the business, and actually commercialize this. So there is an end in sight for some of these ideas on how they should be evaluated further. And I think these are the key elements that we have in our culture that really help us keep that innovation alive. And this is another important one, which I hadn't realized that most companies don't have, which we do have. So let's say I'm in the lab and I come in with a bachelor's in sciences, and I start as a T1 level. I come in on the PhD. I started at a T3 level. So technical level 3, that's where I started. We have the opportunity to not just stay technical, but we could also go into management. But if you so decide you don't want to go into management, you can actually stay technical and rise up on the technical ladder. And the beauty of this is it's not that, oh my God, now I have to become a manager if I want to go up in the company. That's nothing. At 3M, you can go up both ways, the ladder. And so right now I'm at a T7 position. So it's the topmost position there. As my daughter says, you're never getting promoted again. True. However, let me enjoy that. And that level is the same exact level as a director at my division. So I get a private parking spot right outside the building, and so does he. And so it's not just in name, it's in power, prestige, and influence. Yes, I don't have the direct reports that the director has because they chose to go into the management track. I decided to stay technical and just keep using my scientific skills, but I can influence, I can inform, I can inspire from my position. I don't have to have people reporting to me. This also allows people to come up with a lot of ideas and work with a lot of people at the ground level to actually keep that innovation engine going. And I think that's another very important thing at 3M that has allowed us to do that. So we have 22 people right now, I think 22 or 23, that are at the T7 level around the world. So it is a position that you have where you're also participating in setting the R&D strategy for the company in a technical council format, but you don't have any people reporting to you. And I really think that is what allowed me to be successful. Now, we don't have enough time to go into my career journey, but I am not an expert in anything I do, literally. It's all learn on the go, try to solve problems, get a group of people together excited to solve those problems, and then work to solve them. So if you're in an airport ever, when we are traveling again, go to page 206 in this book by David Epstein, Range, and he actually talks about what I do is I like to solve problems. So once I see a problem, I have to build a narrative around that to inspire others to be innovative alongside, so that we can form a team, get some money from the company to work on this, and then have the opportunity to commercialize that. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is this only works if we have the kind of culture that we have. Suppose I wasn't able to go to people. Suppose that we didn't have a collaborative culture. Well, I'm not qualified to solve that problem. I have identified the problem. I think I know how to solve it, but I don't have the actual wherewithal or the technology or the hands-on chemistry that is needed to solve it. If I didn't have a collaborative culture till the boss said so, nobody will work on this. Well, we have our 15% time, so we can all get together and start working on it. And that's the beauty of this. And I've written about that same thing because I get asked a lot of times, how does 3M do it? And so the way I see this is that these are all the elements that we should be considering. And if we don't take into account one of these, then we're making an error. E is for expectation. You have to have the expectation of yourself or your employees or your group or your organization that you're going to be innovative. That should just be a blanket expectation. And it's amazing how when you set it as an expectation, suddenly you see lots of innovation coming. You can need to provide resources, and you have to have an appetite for risk taking. I just talked to you about going to these getting these grants, which is actual resources, and the risk that people are taking in allowing 15% of people's time to go in all of these endeavors. But that is the beauty of that. It allows people to come up with ideas, and then those ideas could be game changers. Opportunity. We have lots of opportunity, then take this and commercialize it. We get rewards. We get recognized for coming up with these ideas. And finally, this constant socialization of the concept of being innovative, which is very important because that just keeps feeding that culture, and people feel they want to be innovative. They feel like this is something we should be doing with the constant socialization. And to those who are listening, this same strategy actually works at home. If you read my article, I actually talked about this of what I did at home. I told my kids that I do not want a gift from them unless it's handmade. And they were very young when I started that in my house. So you couldn't go buy anything, you had to make it. And so we created this expectation. And then first it was just the hacky birthdays, you know, the HAQQI. I'm sure all of you have those at home. But then they started asking for things so that they could make better cards. Then they were really trying to figure out who they could get help from to make this wonderful thing for mommy. And I would say, oh, I can't wait to see what you all are making for me. And then there were rewards involved, because if they participated in something, we would take their artwork and I'd say, oh my God, maybe you need a Lego set because you did this, and maybe you can build me this. And there was this constant socialization. So I know it's not child's play to do this at work, but let me tell you, from a fundamental perspective, it's about the same. So I think it's key to have all these things implemented one way or the other. I shared with you how we do it at 3M, but it doesn't mean we have a monopoly on it. Anybody can do it fundamentally and use all of these things to create that culture of innovation. For us, it's very important because it's part of our vision. And it is something that drives us. 3M innovation, improving every life. And that is also the reason why we were able to pivot the way we were able to when the need for the N95 respirators came about, and how we were quickly able to double and then double again in 12 months. So in order to take this vision and turn it into life, I think you need that level of innovation. And science is central to our brand promise. It is common thread across all our businesses. It's our most distinguishing characteristic, and really what powers us. And I bring up the fact that I'm a science advocate also related to the fact that it is kind of an innovative way for our company to show our thought leadership in science. We care about science. Most people care about science, but there are people out there who are debating about science like it's some belief system. So for those of us who really believe in what we're doing and it's science-based, we need to advocate for it. So somebody had asked me the other day, can you explain your role as chief science advocate? It's just essentially advocating for science, the awareness and appreciation for the role it plays, breaking down barriers and making sure it's not just for guys, it's just not for people with long hair who just want to, do colored fluids and beakers with white coats on. This is for all of us, and women included. And then just champion science for all of us, not just for my company, but as a platform, as an innovative platform for thought leadership. And just as an example of pivoting, what do you do now when you can't do those science experiments and you can't do your work in your lab? We actually got together and created science at home. So we all did DIY videos right here in this room, doing simple experiments so that we could have a very accessible series of videos that show real 3M scientists doing experiments that reinforce core scientific principles, and we launched it as Science at Home. So another example of just being innovative and pivoting based on the skills you have and leveraging those. And it comes from the fact that we have the culture that allows us to do that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight. I know I talk fast, I apologize, but the idea of innovation may not be forefront at this point because we're going through this pandemic. But remember, there is a new norm coming and there's a reset coming. So this is a great time to actually think about how to really foster that culture of innovation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jayshree. Thank you for your time. This was so informative. It was fabulous. So now we have some additional questions that I'd like to try to answer. Again, we are honored to have you with us today. Now, as an advocate for lifelong learning, we would like to know how your career started and led to your current role.
So I actually have an undergrad from India, and then I came to the US for graduate school. And then I came to 3M as a summer student. And when I was here as a summer student, I got the job offer and I was like, oh, cool. And so didn't put much thought into it at all. And the funniest thing is that the area that I was working on had nothing to do with the area that I got the job in. And the reason why I bring that up is many young people are trying to craft out exactly what they're going to do at what time and when and how critical it is for success because they read it in 5 articles or whatever. I'm here to tell you I was not qualified at all. And here's data for you. My PhD is in laser and plasma deposition of diamond-like thin films.
Wow.
It's got nothing to do with polymers and any of that. And I joined the division that worked on components for diapers. So I went from diamonds to diapers. But the only thing that kept me going was the fact that I could solve problems and I could gather people to collaborate and innovate. So at the end of the day, as long as you keep those fundamentals clear, I think success comes easier. So once I started working in this area, we worked on diaper components. I'd never seen a diaper before, but I would joke, I've never seen a diamond either. So there. And then we started making lots of advancements there. So I was given a lot of opportunity. And then I became a Design for Six Sigma black belt. And that allowed me to have wider influence across the company. And then I joined Industrial Adhesives and Tapes division working on sustainable industrial products. And then one day I got the call. People say, oh, you did not get a call. Yeah, that's how it happens. I got a call. They said, we're looking at this particular position and it's called Chief Science Advocate. And we would really love for you to take this role because you're perfect for it. And I'm like, what? And I panicked like all women likely do at this point. And so I did my sort of self-talk on,
Right.
I'm sure they believe I can do it. That's why they called me. They could have called 95,000 people, but they called me. So I walked myself back from the ledge and I said, I'll do it. And it's just been a great experience because, yes, it is something that we haven't done, but heck, we're figuring it out because it's all about problem solving, collaboration, and innovation. So hope that helps. Sorry, long answer.
Yes, absolutely. So informative. Another question here, Jayshree, is you mentioned 3M promotes innovative minds. So does the company hire internationally?
Yes, 3M is global. As I mentioned, we are in marketing operations, almost 70 countries and selling in 200, and we've got labs in over 35, I believe. So yeah, we hire globally.
Okay. And then another question that just came up, as an individual contributor, how do you feel when execution is not in your control?
It is part of the game.
Yeah.
It is part of the game. So what you have to do is to be able to influence as much as possible. And that's the best thing we can do. As an individual contributor, sometimes people limit their own thinking. There's a lot you can do and you don't give yourself credit for. And I'm only speaking from experience. Sometimes I've gone into people's offices and said, I'm not understanding why we're making this decision on execution. And I'm sorry, I'm just being naive and thick-headed, but can somebody explain to me why we're doing this? Because here's what I see. And I have walked out of that room with a different decision having been made. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about pay grades above me making different decisions. So I think it's about building that credibility in an organization and then using that credibility to your advantage. And when I mean your advantage, I don't mean personally you, but pushing the agenda that you think is right for the company in terms of an execution piece. And, if you're really pushing the envelope, not everything is going to be successful. And sometimes it's just retraining the brain to that thinking is that I know this may not seem like something that you want to execute right now, but here's the reason why we ought to do it. 9 times out of the 10, I feel people are missing the big picture. They are missing how this decision fits into some other decision. And it's all about education. And it's possible that even after that, people may stick to the decision that they've made, but at least you feel better and you feel it's an informed decision. So my answer is yes, there are things with execution that will go wrong because you can't do everything. But that's the way it's supposed to be. Right. Obviously, in a well-functioning environment with a collaborative culture and a culture of innovation, people will try to do the best they can, but there will be times when it won't happen. But we can't use that as, oh my God, I failed. It is what it is. Here's the next one and the next one and the next one and keep going. And I'm talking from personal experience.
Yeah, that's great. Great. I think time for one more question here. Question, if someone wanted to pivot their career into research in a company like 3M, known for its innovation, what advice would you give them?
This may sound like a broken record, but the same advice. Very, very learning oriented, because anything that you think you know is changing. Just look at us right now.
Right.
This is a perfect example of, oh my God, I know how to do this and do that. And I've got my joke here and I'll see if the people are smiling or not. And if they're smiling, I'll do this. Boom. I don't see nobody. I see my own face and my flailing arms. So every time, every moment, we have to be that learning attitude in our heads. So with that learning attitude, 2, make sure that you have people that can actually look at your ideas and critique them or mentor you to go on the right path or gently nudge you even. So build that collaborative sort of circle around you. So you've got the learning attitude. That means if they tell you, I don't think you're doing it the right way, you're listening to them, right? So you've got that. And the third thing I would say is look for opportunity. Don't wait. Look for opportunity. So you walk into something and you're new to this area and you want to research in this area, you will find opportunity. You just can't wait and say, somebody needs to tell me what to do. So if you take that initiative, I think things will come easier and easier to you.
I love that. Look for the opportunity. I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to read it to you here. How do you carve out your own time for your 15%? Do you block out time on your calendar? It's a wonderful idea, but it seems like something that could easily be crowded by your daily job.
Very good question. I have to clarify something. 15% time doesn't mean 15% of my time. It's 15% culture. So it's way more about the mindset than the actual math. Mindset versus math. I have an article somewhere on that. I'll have to pull that up.
Pull that up. Yes.
What it is telling you is that you are empowered. You go work on this thing and you do it on whatever time it takes you after delivering on your day job. So what I tell people is there's a simple 2x2, right? If you're not working on your day job and you're not delivering, people are not going to be super excited to find you mucking around in other areas. So deliver on that. And then it's amazing. If you really are charged about something, it'll take way more than 15%. That's the other secret side of the mindset.
Right.
And the math don't add up. So for my 15% ideas, sometimes I work on it all day long. So it's not about a calendar time, it's about that mindset. So the things that you can fit in without compromising or jeopardizing what you do and need to get done, you carve out time for that. I will also have you know that none of my projects, I don't believe a single one was anything that started from anything else other than a 15%. So if you can start doing it and you can identify problems to solve, rally groups of people around to solve it, have a clear narrative on what you want to do, what it takes to get there, you will realize that soon what you started as something 15% becomes big and becomes official. So you can't have very set boundaries between when you're 15% and when you're not. But the idea is to think about what is it that nobody has asked me to do, but I think is important to do, and I can do by talking to a few people or doing some literature search or talking to a few people. And it doesn't have to be some great thing. It can even be, oh, I think we should call such and thus and do a seminar at our location because that'll really help people. And I've thought about that and I've looked at all of this and this is what I'm doing in my 15%. So just getting used to the fact of taking initiative and doing things is way bigger than actually thinking about bazillion dollars at the end of the day. I think it's more of a mindset again.
Great. Well, very informative. One more, if I think we have time for one more here. My employer just moved to the dual ladder. It is all very new to us. How long has 3M worked under a dual ladder structure?
For as far as I know, so that's 27 years that I've been at the company. So it's got to be over 30, 40, 50, but I can find out. I mean, very, very early on, we were operating this way. And the beauty is, I'll be very honest, if you don't have this, you will have people who are ambitious, but they're not good people managers. But the only way to rise up is to become a manager. So heck, they became a manager. And that creates for an unhappy crowd. Mm-hmm. So, if you think that you are a great individual contributor and you want to stay in an individual contributory role, so of course you're signing off the fact that you won't be the CEO, right? But if you don't like people management and you don't want to go into there, that's the opportunity to go up in the tech. And many, many, many technical people who are ambitious, who don't want to be people managers, don't want to be forced into making that choice because that's not where their heart is. And it's really nice that we do it not just in name, but in true sense of the word. We sit along with the directors as we discuss R&D strategy for the company. So it is something that has really worked well. And I congratulate you for your company to adopting this because it really helps spur that idea that people want to stay on that ladder, still contribute and provide value. Now, in order to get more innovation bang for the buck, the other things have to be taken into account as well. Otherwise, it's an innovation error, remember? So it's not just about the fact that you created that, but other tools allowing them to do all these things would be great.
That's great. Well, Jayshree, I think we've come to the end of our session here. Thank you again. This has been fabulous. And it is our hope that you will be joining us on our main stage at our conference in New York City on November 17th. So let's see how things develop. And thank you, Jayshree. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And everyone have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.